Another name for Stonehenge is Merlin's stones. Henry of Huntingdon was the first to write of these stones, around 1130 AD in his book History of the English. Soon after, Geoffrey of Monmouth told the first theory of Merlin's stones. According to Geoffrey's History of the Kings of Britain, Merlin advised King Aelius Ambrosius to raise an army and capture the stones from Mount Killerhouse in Ireland as a suitable place to bury British kings and princes. The English, led by Uther Pendragon, would then defeat Irish defenders and attempt to pull the stones from the ground, where Merlin simply laughed at their attempts. Merlin then used his own tools, or possibly magic, to pull them out of the ground and transport them all the way back to England. A giant was later added to this tale by Robert Wace when he translated it to French. The giant brought the stones with him from Africa to Ireland as they had healing properties. This is a popular proposed theory and is expected to have been exaggerated massively over time. During the Anglo-Saxon period and the medieval ages, many people believed in this theory, and it would also explain why so many people are buried around Stonehenge. It would also explain why Stonehenge is so grand looking, because it acted as a royal monument. Uther Pendragon, King Arthur's father, is also apparently buried under Stonehenge. There is another theory, but much less popular, that's based on the Arthurian legends. This theory is that King Hagist invited many Celtic warriors to a feast before treacherously killing them. He then built Stonehenge as a burial site for them, as he was remorseful for what he'd done. Some believe that the devil brought the stones from a woman in Ireland before wrapping them up and bringing them over to England. The devil then dropped one of these stones into the River Avon before placing the rest on the plains. The devil then shouted, "No one will ever find how these stones came here." But then a friar shouted back, "That's what you think." The devil then angrily threw one of the stones at the friar, just missing him and then hitting him on the heel. This stone would then go on to be called the heel stone. In 1640, John Aubrey conducted the first academic study into Stonehenge. He himself argued that it was built by the Druids. He also theorised that the site was used for pagan worship. This theory, however, has also been debunked. It was later proven that the Druids only came into existence around 300 BC and used forests for worship, not open fields. In 1655, an English architect called John Webb argued that Stonehenge was built by the Romans as a Roman temple for the god Caelius. Other architects around the same time argued that the Danes or the Anglo-Saxons built it. These theories were the most common after the medieval period, until proven wrong in the 1900s. These theories were proven wrong when the stones were dated before the Vikings, Anglo-Saxons, or Romans entered the British Isles. Mike Parker Pearson and many others around 1985 theorised that Stonehenge may have been used as a long ritualised funerary procession for treating the dead. Across the River Avon, another stone circle was built in Durrington. This one, however, was made out of timber and may have been used as a part of this tradition. Mike Parker Pearson speculated that the timber was used to represent life and the stone was used to represent death. People may have travelled from life to death across the River Avon. This theory has much support from the cult of the dead, who study stone circles and megalithic architecture across the globe. Mike Parker Pearson also suggests that Stonehenge was built as a unification gesture and symbol. Stonehenge could have brought together 5 great tribes, who all brought with them their own materials. This would explain why Stonehenge uses far-ranging materials that was unusual for the time and would have taken a huge amount of effort. He also theorised that Stonehenge may have acted as a meeting place for these tribes, and the arches themselves represented the doors to different worlds and cultures. Geoffrey Wainwright and Timothy Darville in 2008 theorised that Stonehenge may have been an ancient healing and pilgrimage site. This is because many bodies buried around Stonehenge show evidence of trauma and deformity. The Greek historian Doradicus Aurelius in the 1st century once said, "A magnificent precinct, sacred to Apollo, and a notable spiral temple, lies on a large island to the far north, opposite Gaul." This historical account would back up this modern theory. This is because Apollo was recognised as the god of medicine and healing. In 2015, the Australian Lane Kelly speculated that Stonehenge served the purpose of an amorphic centre for recording and receiving knowledge by Neolithic Britons who lacked a written language. She speculated that they could have used Stonehenge to gather much information for geography and navigation, including land management and even farming. They also could have used the site for cultural knowledge on history, politics, genealogy and religion. Everybody's favourite theory, whether they believe it or not, is that aliens built Stonehenge. They theorise that these stones were simply too big for our ancestors to figure out how to move, and they came from way too far away. This does have a ring of truth in it, as we'll explore later in the video. This theory also applies to other structures around the world, such as the pyramids in Egypt, that were built around 1,000 years after Stonehenge. The reason aliens built Stonehenge as well as these other structures is not agreed upon, but the most common theory is that they were built as a navigation tool, as well as a possible landing area. The most popular theory by far is that Stonehenge was built as a giant astronomical calendar. This is a common theory that many view as proven simply because of how well Stonehenge is designed. Many times throughout the year, the stones, stars and moon align in amazing ways. The best example of this is the summer solstice that is still celebrated at Stonehenge to this day. On the summer solstice, the sun will arise in perfect position from the hailstone and align perfectly in the middle of the trilithon. The critics of this theory don't simply write this off as a coincidence. Instead, they suggest that this was done purely for aesthetics and not for use of a calendar.
Be sure to check out my other channel, History Sticks, for the complete, longer and comprehensive video.